pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll be meeting on the town meeting warrants at 6:45 until then.
Make a motion to accept the departmental reports.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Make a motion we approve the sign maintenance warrant 67.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Is there two warrants?
No, it's only one.
Okay.
Sign two things.
There's two copies of the
Two
same.
copies.
One goes
Do you
to
have the,
one goes to the treasurer, one's to it's in the correspondence folder.
Eagle Scout?
That's in there somewhere.
I think it's in the correspondence folder.
You all signed it.
We have a citation for resident Nicholas A. Tassoni, who's completed his Eagle Scout. And it says, "Dear Nicholas, the Select Board would like to recognize your personal achievements and services to achieve Eagle Scout status. Your commendable qualities of volunteerism, integrity, and responsibility shows in your willingness to do a project that will benefit others for many years. Again, congratulations. We wish you all the best in future endeavors." And he did a project at the park, or no?
I think he was the one that did the project built the out by the horse corral, wasn't he?
Was it? I thought that was.
I thought that was.
I thought it was Bay Rossi, but I never saw anything with Bay Rossi.
I thought it was this kid, but
All right.
Doesn't say the letter.
Well, we got another one to sign.
We have stormwater report also from, this to be signed by the chairman, I think.
that would be in the new business folder probably next
Yeah,
time.
we already signed it actually. But
You did?
yeah, I'm very efficient today. Or at least ahead of the
There you
game.
go.
So make a motion to approve the stormwater report as submitted by the highway superintendent.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna take this. I assume I'm being designated to attend that if possible.
Okay, that's fine.
We have two applications for Dufresne Park. One is from the United States Marine Corps, and that's for Saturday, May 16th, rather, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. No police assigned, no alcohol, about 500 people, and it's a Marine Corps Future Marine Field Meet.
Good. As long as they're not trying to take over the state of Massachusetts like they're doing in Texas.
Maybe we'd be better off. The second application is for...
Just one question.
Yeah.
Al, did you have any issues with that with the air show going on too? At the
No,
same
they
time?
came in, I spoke with, I forget their names, three people from that organization that came in today.
Sergeant Richards.
I don't remember their names, I have their business cards. And they sent me a schedule today as well for their events that day. We touched base with Chief Anderson, and I don't expect any issue. We're going to have the cruisers check in every once in a while.
Second application for East Meadow School for their field day, and that's June 18th. Rain date, June 19th. No alcohol, 8 to 2:45. Make a motion to approve both.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
There's a few. No, it's only 8. I can't see the clock.
It's 20.
Town clerk has requested a change in date for the debt exclusion, because a letter in there somewhere, to move it from the following day that we had scheduled to East Meadow's final day of classes being
That would be in the new business folder.
22nd to the 24th.
Yeah, that'll be my birthday. But I don't get it in mine.
Again, it's from Town Clerk Kathy Kelly Regan, and she states she's had a conversation with East Middle School Principal Jennifer Champagne, and requests that the debt exclusion vote be changed from the 22nd to the 23rd due to the fact that it's the last day of school at East Meadow, and there's an assembly and quite a bit of activity. And she also requests the polls be open on June 23rd from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in
Do we have
favor?
to read this?
Aye.
Okay.
And that vote on the select board meeting on May 4th, the board voted to place on the June 23rd, 2015 ballot, according to Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C, subsection K, the following question: shall the town of Granby be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, so-called the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to pay costs of engineering, permitting, and constructing wastewater system improvements for the Route 202 sewer extension project Phase 1, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto? And the options are yes and no. And this vote will be contingent upon town meeting approval prior to that, correct?
Don't know yet. I don't want to talk about that. And behind it is the election warrant, special election warrant. Placing basically the ballot on a,
That's this.
yeah, that's the special election warrant.
Okay, the special election warrant, Proposition 2.5, debt exclusion or debt exclusion question. Shall the town of Granby be allowed to exempt from the Proposition 2.5, so-called the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to pay for costs of engineering, permitting, and constructing wastewater system improvements for Route 202 sewer extension project Phase 1, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto? You are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting attested copies thereof at 5 or more public places as of the bylaws before the time of said meeting. Hereof fail not and make return of this warrant with the doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of said voting. And this was voted by us on the 4th of May.
Today.
Today. 2015. There's 2 copies for that.
No, I'll just keep it together. I think you're crossing that before,
We have an appointment at 6:45 with the town moderator to go over the annual town meeting warrant
and we're also going to go over the special.
and the special.
You should have it in your appointment folder. And there should be a copy for you, Lynn, and Mark and Larry. Ready to discuss? Okay, under special town meeting warrant, which is basically one article to address the sewer budget, or the sewer project. Lynn and myself met with Ed Ryan, town council, to discuss this because at the leadership meeting on April 27th, there was questions raised whether we could enter into discussion and delay the votes or any combination thereof. Talked with Ed. His recommendation is either a board member or myself stand up prior to the motion being offered and stating that the motion will not be offered at the May 11th meeting due to the fact that additional public outreach is necessary and that the article will be placed on the June 15th special town meeting warrant. And he said that's the easiest way to do it, because once you enter the motion, then it can go through complete discussion. And it would be very hard to turn around and not allow town meeting to discuss a project that the board or the committee is not ready to discuss at that point in time. Am I-
That's correct, and we will have further discussion and questions, or any discussion actually and questions at the public hearings, which hopefully by next Monday we'll know the date or dates of the public hearings where people can learn about the sewer project.
And you can just make that ruling as a moderator, you don't have to have
Right.
a vote or anything.
We're not going to offer a motion.
We're going to open a special town meeting. One of you or Chris will get up and say, we're not offering this motion, and here's why. We want more information out to the public. You will put this on this June 15th ballot special town meeting, and you will have opportunity to discuss this with the sewer committee, and
So no motions involved.
no motions are involved, there's no discussion.
Declaration of
Right.
saying, yep.
And then I'll call for a motion to dissolve the
Yep.
special town meeting. And then, so nothing really will be accomplished in that special town meeting
Yep.
that we originally planned.
While we're talking this too, Mary, your question about the flyer that has been being developed by the sewer
Yep.
committee.
Yep.
In looking at it, I gave the board a copy of what it's supposed to look like. However, it has not been run by the Board of Health yet. And I was talking with Dick Palmadier earlier today. I sent this to him and asked him for his comment. He had some concerns over a couple of the comments on the flyer. And before releasing it, he would like to be able to read it and get back to me with his concerns regarding statements on the flyer.
Okay, I do have an issue with that, though, regarding, are there specific things that he brought out to you?
Yes. There was two topics that we talked about, and he wanted to look at everything on it to make sure that there wasn't any misinformation going out there. That's Dick. I'm just saying. I'm just letting you know. I talked with him.
Yeah. But he has a representative on the board that developed this.
And
His
his statement was his representative did not bring back proper information. I'm just letting you know, Mary. I'm just letting you know.
No, I understand that.
That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to
I
avoid
understand
a
that.
conflict at
And what I'm trying to
presentation.
avoid is a holding up of something, which Dick had the opportunity to come here to that meeting. He has a representative on the board. Can you be more specific as to what he is questioning? You were on that committee. Are his questions valid?
Well, in looking at this,
Yep.
well, I didn't make this last meeting when this was really finalized. I was at another meeting, and I came down to the last
Yeah, but it
5
was-
minutes of it. But I'm just letting you
There
know.
was a draft that was prior to that seemed to, okay.
Point number 1.
Yeah.
Eliminates contamination of public water supply wells. He has a problem with that statement. Okay. He has a problem also with
Oh.
the point about bacteria detection has occurred in 5 of the 7 public water supplies in the last 10 years, which affects the quality of drinking water and can cause health-related issues. If this is going to be mailed to every household, then everybody who has a health-related issue may start thinking it's due to their water and bacteria in the water. And he feels that the Board of Health will be inundated with a lot of calls. And it's just, I'm just trying to give him his chance to look at it.
I know.
That's all I'm trying to do.
I understand that, Chris, but the only problem I have with that is those avenues were available to the Board of Health. There is a person who represents the Board of Health, Dick. We know what happened at the last meeting in terms of Dick's comments, and this, I hope it's not a stonewalling effort, and I'd like to give credit to the committee who developed this, and maybe those things will come out as we proceed forward then, in an effort of transparency to move forward and discuss them, and if they come out to that, they come out to that. But to hold up a thing because Dick wants more time is, I think, first of all, I have sent this to a couple people, I've checked with board members, and, so, I don't think it's a thing that we should do.
I'm not in favor of sending out the bacteria detection thing or the information thing, just because it's not specific enough. It just, I don't think the intention is to frighten people, but it will frighten people. Number one. Number two, I don't know what the wells are. I don't know how many hits there were. I don't know what the causes were, and I feel uncomfortable with that.
Is this coming from the board or coming from the committee?
This is coming from this is what was developed by the committee.
I think that they're the ones that are going to have to stand behind what they say.
But it is a standing committee of the board, too. You have to understand that, too.
No, I do, but how long a delay is he asking?
I was planning on calling him tomorrow to see if he had a chance to look at it tonight.
When are they planning to send this out?
They wanted to do it ASAP, and they were hoping that I think the board would give it approval and send it out, give it approval to send it out. I mean, ideally, this should be out. I know we're not going to discuss it at the town meeting, but this should be out before then. This should be out as soon as 3 weeks ago.
This also has stuff about the school that's been superseded. Since we now are actually going with the septic system that's on the property, those two things should be struck too. John?
No matter who's responsible for sending it out, I would think that people can say the select board has approved this. And I guess one of the questions you might put down is that if you approve that thing to be sent out, then the question would be, where have you been for the last 10 years? You haven't sent anything to the town about this sort of statements. It's a very alarming statement. I don't think it's true. It changes to try to get people worried about it. But the question would be, where have you been for 10 years? If you believe that that's true.
Well, it's not it hasn't been 10 years. The source of this statement is the wastewater management plan, which is accepted.
Exactly.
CWMP, I think, is like 2 years old.
Yeah, but I don't really know what. It doesn't give me enough. I mean, I'm not gonna vote to approve it.
Well, I think the other thing maybe is a little misleading. I don't know if this bacteria detection is necessarily a result of leach fields. I mean, I know Albany has a problem with the well, but I don't know if it's ever been determined to be the leach field problem.
Well, according to Dick, most non-fecal coliform contamination of wells is from groundwater. It's not from subsurface issues. So, and I just have a concern if the Board of Health stands up and starts taking this apart piece by piece by piece, and not giving him a chance to look at it and getting information out to everybody. That's all I'm saying. That's all. I'm just trying to give him his due say.
There's another problem financially. It's incorrect, and it's misleading. I've got some figures I can show you.
Could you share that with us?
Yeah. There are a number of things going on this page, some of which are related to more general questions of financing the project. But the thing I want to call attention to is the clock statements. To do this, the town is going to have to borrow $666,920. And leaving aside the question of whether or not the town should be paying a large percentage or a small percentage of the total amount, the thing is that loan has to be paid back. And the annual payments are listed there. In the right side of the box, every annual payment is section for 40 years and 20 years and 20 years. But the thing is, although there are going to be private users that have these EUs, the equivalent dwelling units, the town has 34 of the equivalent dwelling units. So the town, one way or another, has to pay for at least 34 of the 231. But of the other 197 that are private, although the town will be able to put a lien on the property, which is due when property is sold, and can charge a betterment fee to the property, and has an offer to lend people money to pay for it if they want to pay it off. The people are not going to give them any obligation unless the Board of Health says something specific about the property. The people are not given any obligation to pay that betterment fee until they either sell their house, which you can put a lien on, or sign up for connecting to the sewer. And there's no way that people have to connect to the sewer unless they have a problem with their septic system. And I think the Board of Health can require them to. And if houses are sold, so you can't guarantee for 40 years that you're going to get any more money coming in. So all you can say that you can be sure of is that the tax rate will go up by 4.49%, or on the average size home, $170 for the next 20 years, and an additional $47 for the 20 years after that. And you can be almost certain that that'll be the case in the first year, because in the first year, you know you're not going to get everybody signed up. Even people want to go there. And you got to collect the money because it's a cash flow problem. The money is going to have to be paid to pay off the loan. So Granby has to take the money in. And if you can't force the people who are the private owners on the sewer line to take it in, then it comes from all the rest of the taxpayers.
John, what happens, I understand what you're saying, the first year, say no one signs up, taxes are going to go up, regardless of how, because you're going to know who's going to sign up, so the taxes go up. What happens like by year 5?
Every year thereafter, if there's any money coming in, then I think what has to happen is someone has to make a motion at town meeting to offset the tax rate by money that's been collected for the sewer line. And that's something that's going to do it for 40 years.
So it doesn't automatically go into a betterment account or a sewer account that
Enterprise.
Like an enterprise account?
Right.
I don't think so, because the money, the loan, I think, is going to be made to Granby. 3 loans that I think it's going to Granby.
We'd have to pass a debt exclusion anyway to take the loans, is that correct?
Yes, but although, unlike the schools, which are going to be asking for an increase to pay for the building, there's a state law that says that the MSBA has to pay to contribute to the loans.
That's guaranteed.
Yeah, that's guaranteed. And I think we probably still have to borrow a full amount of money, but you can guarantee to people under the state law, we're only going to have to pay half of it. So you can guarantee that. But in this one, you can't guarantee anything. You're going to tell people that if we put this sewer in, then their taxes, they have to be prepared for taxes going up in the 170. And the Finance Committee, who is for sewers, and would be for this sewer, except that we're completely against the way this cost of being stored, would be able to say the same thing. It's not the sewer, it's the whole stuff around it that really hasn't, I think, been thought through. It's been thought through in a way that you can tell people, here's what you're facing, and here's the risks that you face.
What is the Finance Committee's opinion on how it should have been funded?
Well, we've been thinking pretty much in terms of the way the last sewer project was funded. It was 1990, I think, and the sewer project that we had.
It's about 20 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
There were a lot of problems with a state grant fell through. There were a lot of issues back then.
But I think that thing was paid for entirely by the users. People who were users. And I think that's the Finance Committee's discussions so far have been that that's how we would favor doing this, because we have no town-wide plan to sewer the town, which would be very ideal. But this particular piece of it is more analogous to the first thing that we did than it is to a town-wide sewer project. And so that the cost of this thing should be borne by the users. Now, the town is about a 14% user. We have about 34 of the 231 EDUs that are along this route. So it's a considerable chunk that the town would have to pay for as a user, as a potential user.
Wouldn't you run into the same issue though doing that the town would have to fund the?
Yeah, no, you still got, no matter what happens, you've still got the finance. So the financing question is something I've got it blocked off because it's independent of who is going to pay for it. Who is responsible for the payment for it. The practical matter of financing, it means that the burden is going to fall on the taxpayer because the grant goes to Granby. But the Finance Committee's objection is to the scheme for splitting the cost link between the town users and private users. Either way though, this is an issue, I think, for what people can be told. I mean, I wouldn't stand up and say you're going to guarantee that your particular costs are going to be some percentage of this, because you can't. People have called me and said, that's, I don't know.
So you're saying, John, that it should definitely just simply be in terms of who hooks up or the town should not, even though they have the 34, above and beyond that 34 EDU or 14%, 14.7% should not look to take on any more of the costs. That's what you're saying.
Correct. Because there are, that's what happened the first time the sewer project was done. And it takes a look at people who live far enough away from this particular extension that they're never going to be able to hook it to that. They're never going to be able to hook it to any further than the extension. Which now I think you ought to have under question for consideration, because the building site for the new school that's going to be proposed is not going to require sewage. Not going to require new leaching.
What is it going to require?
Just some minor adjustments to the current system that's already in place. The current system is overbuilt when easement was built. And the DEP, we were told at the last building committee meeting, has determined that some minor things going in the system, that system is fine to handle even a proposed PK through 6 school built on that site. Which, let me tell you, is it gets every week to school building.
It'll save us $1 million.
So what? I mean that lends suspect information too, considering what happened the last time with the project, right? I mean, we needed something other than just an upgrade on our
the high
septic.
school.
I mean,
High school.
we spent a great deal of time, I thought, on the necessity to have this incredible system built if we were going to do it. And so,
I don't remember the details around that, but it could be that the big difference is that it was a brand new high school that was proposed. It could be a whole different set of regulations, but nothing's being done in the high school. There's only being a renovation of East Meadow Plan, and there's only a PK for 3 that's being built new. So the question became, for the systems that are there, does adding on a new PK for 3 strain the system, or is it beyond its built for?
Well, the
And
DEP
says, no, it's fine.
DEP came out and stuck sticks in the ground and looked at the engineering and
I believe that's the difference from the last project, Mary, is there's a change order approved to have DEP come out and physically look at the septic system at East Meadow, the septic system at the high school, get the information of the projected student population and the teachers when each of those was constructed. And DEP was going to go through and look at it. They said the systems look great. They look like they're oversized. We're waiting for the information on the number of students and teachers for each of the sites when it was built. And from everything I'm hearing is they don't see any issue with us being able to.
They're also separate septic systems, so serving East Meadow and serving the high school.
So I brought this up because it has to do with the financial information that's in the draft
Well,
there, which is incorrect on the number.
I mean, that's a concern if you're saying that the actual increase is going to be 4%, not 2%. Decreasing certainly, but
Yeah, certainly.
that's a big difference if we tell people it's going to be $84 on a $200,000 property and it turns out to be $170. It's certainly not accurate information to give to the people. And one of the questions I had, and maybe you know, John, is what is the average household in town? Is it 207 or is it 227?
In fiscal year 15, the one that we're in, it's the $226,820. This information is straight from the state websites, the Department of Revenue websites. It's got all sides.
Yeah, the assessor said something about average property get 200,000 or something.
Median property.
Oh, the median rather than average. Oh, that might be the reason why.
How soon do you think these issues can be corrected and get it out?
Well, I'm going to get it off the board. Maybe members tomorrow. Yeah, that's the issue. Like I said, I want to get back on the phone.
I mean, can it be done before Monday?
I think it should be able to be done before Monday.
I mean, that's when most of the people are going to.
Are you meeting Tuesday? What day do you want? You guys meet?
Finance Committee meets tomorrow and Wednesday. And if brochures are going to go out, I think it's finalized. Then we would prepare some material to be available at the meeting. We wouldn't be going to talk with the boards of talk. We would prepare some material at the meeting that we would put back on to indicate any questions we had, which I didn't answer.
Does the committee intend on putting this brochure out at town meeting, or are they going to mail it out?
I would think both.
I would say both as well.
And Chris, make sure at your meeting that they're aware that there will be no discussion at special town meeting.
Were you here for that part? Were you here for that part of the discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine with us.
Am I correct about putting you on the spot and assuming that the Finance Committee will say that they are in favor of sewer in the town, however you're not in favor of funding it in this manner?
We're,
At the
in general,
Yeah.
At the gym.
yeah, and I think probably even in the thing, because there's been what we think is a lot of misinformation traveling around about the finance committee thinks about schools. So how I think actually supported it. Well, we had some discussions and some meetings. And we would be in favor of this if it were financed.
And what would the per EDU fee be if it was total?
$33,000.
What was that again?
$33,000.
Not double. Not quite double.
It's right here.
Very easy.
It's on a spreadsheet.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
And, we've been trying to even find out how the previous costs are calculated. The finally sent an answer.
What was that, John?
It's arbitrary. The town costs were set simply for the purpose of lowering the EDU fee, not by a logical thought process of this is for this purpose and that's for that purpose. It's simply for the EDU fee, which as a taxpayer, the finance committee kind of outraged. The finance committee member just been talking about
Does this figure include the town share?
Yeah, it's the total cost of the project is going to be this $8.5 million.
Yeah.
And and we have to borrow and there's a grant, $800,000 grant for it. The total cost that we have to borrow is $7,666,890. And if it's split up by EDU use, those are the figures, two figures on the bottom. With the second thing, the town cost based on EDU is 1.1 million. The user cost is 6.5 million. Whereas with the way that they've got the figures that they're presenting, which nobody here can duplicate, the town costs are going to be about 4 million. In the finance committee, we worked, Chris worked to try to figure out how the figures were arrived at, because we're willing to listen to any meetings, just try to do the figures. But I mean, just the reason nobody could figure it out was because there was entirely arbitrary. So well, let's think how we get the thing low enough that people who are on it will start to come out and vote for it, and the rest of the time just figure it out.
Chris, when you were part of this, as a member of this committee, were you part of determining these figures? I thought you were part of that.
Which figures are we talking
The one in the brochure. I thought you were.
Originally, when I was looking at everything, we were at the $8,296,000. Now we have another $172,000 of ineligible costs that we've added on. Which when I contacted AECom, basically is for bond counsel fees, loan origination fees, and I think other type of fees associated with borrowing. That was after the public meeting that this was all developed. The $3,929,000 figure, I could never get a handle on from any of the meetings that I had. So I asked for
Which figure is that now?
that was presented at the original hearing. If you take the municipal loan principal of $4,101,000, subtract $172,000 from it, you come to the $3,929,357 figure that was presented at the hearing. I could never figure out how that number came along, so I asked AECom to send me their spreadsheets so I could try and track their calculations backwards. I was able to track the calculations backwards, and basically what they did is they took the cost of the proposed pipe, the total cost of that, and then they applied a percentage factor to it. Percentage factor, there was no formula, it was just a straight number, 67%. And when I wrote to them and asked them, what is the how is the 67% figure derived? The answer I got is just to get the figure down below a certain percentage.
So when did you write to them? I mean, after all the discussions, or?
Yeah, because I had a problem. Like I said, I had a problem. I couldn't come to the number. When I listened to them give the numbers, and I had been asking for the spreadsheets for a while. And I finally got the spreadsheets because the ones that Dennis had were old versions, so I had to wait to get the ones from Marie, which were the current versions. And when I got those, it took me a little while to go through and look at them because there's like 5 different spreadsheets that are used to make these calculations. And when I got to the final one where I was looking at it, there's just this number, an arbitrary number that was put in there. And when I asked about it, that's what I was told, an arbitrary number.
After the meeting, I went up to 2 of the people that were there, and I asked 2 different people if they could tell me how they calculated the figures. Neither one of them could tell me. Somebody got it myself. So then I passed on that information to Chris also, which he had gotten independently, and said that we just have to give it to him to be the contact. But we tried. We couldn't get any information on it. And then I think when we finally got the information, I can see why about them I would hold that information back.
I just, from my point of view, this didn't just happen. this final copy or whatever. This was developed by the committee, and I don't know how it gets to that point with members, representatives on the committee who would work with the numbers, and I guess it's,
Because you hand it a spreadsheet and it has numbers on it,
Yeah.
and you start looking at them, and then, you know, I'm asked the question, well, how is the 3,929,000? Nobody could tell them. I start looking at it a little bit more, I start getting more information.
They gave us pages with numbers on it, but the numbers, no matter how you looked at them, didn't make any sense for what they were coming up with their numbers, for their answers. It was ridiculous. Very frustrating. You're used to dealing with numbers, and you sit down and figure out it, put together.
Weren't they actually, I'm trying to remember back, weren't they actually going by like a certain amount, dollar amount per foot of pipe, and a certain amount for...
Those are the figures that they gave us, how much the total pipe was, or what it was per foot of pipe, and what it was to do this, what it was that. Those are the figures that they gave.
And then what they did is they applied this 67% figure to those pipe numbers to come up with the 3 million, or pardon, to be paid by taxes.
Yeah.
The way I understand it from the spreadsheet. That's the only, and that started raising a concern on my part, that I was under the impression when they were talking the 3,929,000 that this was the quote unquote economic benefit to the town. They mentioned that at one point. That was an economic benefit, and then, you know, Bob was mentioning, well, if it's only 34 EUs at 18,000 EBU, then it should only be, what, 600,000 or something of that nature, or 800,000. Just started snowballing from there.
so John, you haven't met with Dennis, right, from AECom?
No, but I asked him that night after the presentation, and he basically said he didn't know anything all about it. He said, yeah, ask somebody.
Yeah, so you haven't met with anyone
No, I
from
haven't.
AECom
No,
that would help develop these figures?
no, because what I did was I told Chris, and Chris said yes, he had some of the same questions, and we actually spoke with the woman who was there. The two of us spoke with the woman. She was supposed to get the figures, and Chris emailed them. He kept saying he didn't get the figures, and it was the day that he was promised the figures. They didn't come. Had to go back to him again. We tried virtually everything except showing up at their office and demanding to go through all their books. And we can't do that. Nobody wanted to give us any figures.
Well, I'd love to give Dennis a call or the woman a call, because, they're supposed to be working with us and be able to provide the backup information on all this, and I can't, I personally, I guess I'm very disappointed. First of all, I'm disappointed that it's gotten to this place with a committee in place, but it is where it is, and for them to not get in touch with us is very concerning, but so I guess I'd like to follow that up, because I think that's definitely wrong.
Would they be expected? Who would be expected to be public information?
AECom said that they would come to public education meetings.
Yeah, they came to the last meeting. Who's going to be prepared to give us the kind of figures that we would need to know how this is put together? So somebody's going to do that.
I still say, what we could do is try and set up a meeting specifically with the finance committee. Get these down here. The committee would be and talk to us. We tried to do it with the Board of Health once, however, due to illness of the members, that meeting got canceled.
And not all three members. There was an illness on that leadership meeting.
Well, all I know is that
Is-
people were ready to go, and all of a sudden there was an illness, and
Yeah.
because supposedly one of the board members was recusing himself because he's in the target area, so, and the other one was on the committee, so, you know, you're not going to go and waste money on EECom coming in to talk to the person who's on the committee.
So who is going to get that meeting to happen, like ASAP? with the finance committee?
I know we can't have anything on Wednesday night, probably, but maybe. Well, I'll see if we can make it a Wednesday night meeting, but you probably already got that probably planned out for the school, right?
No, Tuesdays.
Tuesday.
Wednesday, we certainly got to, we'll just we leave at 10 o'clock every night, I just do the same. They can come on Wednesday night, be fine. Library.
What about the Board of Health concerns with you? Or the members of the Board of Health?
I'm trying to talk to him tomorrow about it and see what his concerns are. My biggest concern was when I talked to him today, he said that the Board of Health rep did not bring information back to the board. Whether she did, she didn't. I can't answer that question. All I'm saying is it just is a concern. Maybe I can see if maybe Dick can attend the meeting with the finance committee too.
Yeah, we come and
And get all
Talk, get all the
everybody
things.
together.
Well, then, how about the SWAC?
No. It's a solid waste advisory commission. This is-
Oh, I'm
This is a good
the
waste.
sewer, yeah.
No, all the committee members are going to be invited to it, yes.
But don't they have to post?
I don't think if we're going to make a decision, I don't think it's just an informational session. But
Well, it depends upon what authority the committee has. If it has no authority other than to recommend something, then they can talk all they want, and that's it. If they actually have to make a decision, then they would probably have to have a meeting posted because of the county's deliberations. It's according to the new open meeting law.
So how are they gonna determine what changes, if any, are gonna be made on this, if they don't have a meeting?
Until they have a meeting scheduled. No?
you can try and post them for Thursday, I suppose. Maybe 48 hours notice.
And then we has to get back to us before approval?
Huh?
And then it has to come back to us for approval?
Man, I would like,
Because it was talked about mailing it to every household.
well, if it's gonna be mailed, it doesn't have to be mailed before town meeting.
Right, but I'm just saying, that was talked about at one point, to mail to every household.
But, I mean, I strongly object to that. Now, obviously, like, some things are just easy to change, like the school stuff, which is now irrelevant. Finch Hill only has one end, but that's not very big a deal. But I really disagree with this bacterial stuff just because it's too vague, too general, and it sounds, I don't think it's as bad as it sounds, number one. Number two, I don't know what it means, so I couldn't tell you how bad it is.
Doesn't it talk about how bad it is though in the wastewater report?
Doesn't say it here.
Well,
Everybody-
isn't that where the
they've
the
had,
backup information is based on the wastewater?
well, there may be
report?
backup information, but it's not represented here, which is going out to people. I mean, I can go home and look it up, but, there's one about 5 of us that have the wastewater treatment thing. And I don't know how extensive the testing was, and obviously they only tested public water sources, and I don't know what those sources are.
Well, that could have come probably from
They got the
DEP,
report.
because every
I
time there's a
believe
hit,
they
it has to
Oh,
go
they-
out
the
to
report as
DEP.
well.
That could have come
I
from...
think Tom said that's what he,
They had to
Got
approve
that
the report as well.
Okay, so it came from town, it came from DEP, but again, like, every day, once a year. There's just not enough information there to make it an honest presentation of information. And I'm not holding it against the committee, I think they're trying to put information down, reasons, but, yeah, I don't buy it. I don't support sending it out like it that way, in that condition.
well, if they're gonna meet and revise it, then the question is, do we wanna meet, well, it's not gonna get out before Monday, obviously, via mail. It could, but not.
Wouldn't have been going out I don't think it would be going out before town meeting anyway, by mail, right?
I think their intent was.
This was the final draft.
Yeah.
But if we're not gonna vote on it or discuss it Monday. I guess there's no rush at this point to put it out.
The only unfortunate thing is, when we say no rush, it would be really good if we knew that Chris and John were going to meet with AECom and go over the financials as soon as possible, like this week. If you could get the Board of Health as part of that meeting as well, and who is the chair of the committee? Tom Hamill? And maybe
He's
another
the
person.
toughest one to get a hold of.
The other thing is, you gotta make
There's
sure
not going to
that,
be a discussion on next Monday, on Monday the 11th.
No.
No, I know, I'm just
Well,
talking
well, what they
about
wanted
it.
was
I
to
mean,
have a
this-
flyer available to hand out or put on the back table,
Yeah,
basically.
it was a date, so.
So,
No, that was going to be said after this was approved and it was filled out.
if need be, John, could we get a couple members of the finance committee to meet with AECom, or do you want the full committee to meet with AECom?
You're talking in terms of,
Just trying to get together so we don't have to worry about it, needing to worry about a posted meeting, just get representatives from the various groups in there.
but we already have meetings posted for Tuesday and Wednesday, and our Wednesday meeting, we wanted to meet on Thursday. Our Wednesday meeting could just be continued until Thursday, or we didn't have time to post it. We have time to actually post a Thursday meeting. So each evening, we will, we're not going to have the full committee there on either Tuesday or Wednesday. Three or four people each day.
let me ask one more question here. Is there anything, can they just eliminate the questionable figures from this and then just put the figures that are not questionable? Or are all figures questionable?
The figures were fine if you're planning on having taxpayers pay based upon the presentation made at the hearing. If you only want the tax, or if you only want the user, the betterment to be $18,000 per EDU, versus what John is proposing, that there'd be no tax portion.
No, but the information of what the tax rate goes up is incorrect on there.
What I'm just saying is, based upon this, you're saying that the town should only pay based upon the 34 EDUs.
Yeah, but independent of that, no matter how the cost is being split up, the taxpayers are going to be hit with a 4% property tax increase, because it's the taxpayers that have to fund the loan. And that would only be able to be reduced, I think, at a town meeting if we had income coming in from other sources, or if we could take it out of it.
Well, the last time we paid it through the sewer enterprise fund, all the debt.
But there won't be anything in that until people start hooking up, right?
What I'm suggesting is that if the committee could eliminate the questionable things, leave the rest on there.
But what Chris is just saying, what he just said a minute ago is the figures here are.
The figures add up. The figures
are
add up.
correct. It's the interpretation of the finance committee in terms of, and John though now saying that, well, the only thing is, I guess, is John wants to make it clear that it's $170.06 for 4%, to cover all costs. That's what you're saying. I mean, really, when you look at it, if money is put back, it's not going to equal that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you can't guarantee that.
It's just like,
All I'm trying to do is
is
figure
the
out.
glass half empty or
So,
half full?
the first year,
The first year, the payments are going to be first year, the payments are going to be $426,000 or something.
and how much of income could we anticipate from hookups in the first year? Minimum.
It's part of the plan to force people to hook up.
So the first year, the tax rate will in effect be 4% higher than it is now.
Yeah.
On-
No.
Regarding forcing them to hook up, that's really a Board of Health call. However, Micheline said that the board would not require them to hook up the minute it was put in front of their house because
Okay.
they would wait until their system failed and then require them to do it. The factor that you run into here is people can choose not to pay the EDU. We're going to put a lien on their property for whatever figure, either $33,000 or $18,000 or whatever figure we decide to put. We're going to put a lien, physically put a lien on their property. They can choose, I want to pay the $33,000 one lump sum. They'll give you a check for $33,000. They can choose to fund it for up to 20 years at a rate of 5% per year, just like a loan. They could decide to pay back the $33,000 over 20 years at 5%. I can't tell you what percentage of the people are going to pay up front, refuse to pay, or select a payment plan between 5 and 20 years. I can't give you that information. That depends upon everybody's finances at that point in time. So I can't give you, and John can't give you, nobody I think really can give you what a projected cash flow is.
All right, so I'm just trying to get to an end of this discussion. So it doesn't look like anybody feels comfortable leaving those numbers in, or leaving some of these numbers in, or not. I'm just trying to figure out a way so the committee can do what they want. I mean, you can still send out the flyer without a tax increase listed on it. And, that's what actually kind of, from a media point of view,
Well,
actually creates some.
do you want to just change it to proposed betterment principal per EDU of 18,000? Proposed. Instead of, this is what it's going to be because there is 2 thought patterns. I'm just asking a
Right, I
question.
mean, and this is the thought pattern from the committee that developed this brochure.
So do we put proposed? All this is proposed.
I'm in favor
At
of
the
that.
At the top, we
The
say
whole thing is
proposed
proposed.
financing of the project. It's,
Proposed Route 202 sewer expansion, proposed, I mean, the whole thing
but
is
I'm just saying on the
proposed.
finances, this is a proposed financing scheme.
Except for the taxes.
Yeah, I think there should at least be an asterisk there saying that this figure could fluctuate depending upon how many people pay. To be accurate, I mean, I don't want to go in and tell people, yeah, this is what your taxes are going up, and all of a sudden they get their tax bill. I thought you said it was 2% and 4%.
Unless, in a meeting with AECom, something else comes out in terms of their figures.
Well, I don't know how that would affect what John said.
See, the reason I had the content of the box is that I think that box is what the reality of at least the first couple of years is going to be for everybody in town. That no matter who ultimately is responsible for the cost, the town of Granby is the one that has to make the payment to go back. And for the town of Granby to make the payment to go back, it's going to have to raise $429,000.
We're not going to get 100% sign up. You can almost be guaranteed we're not going to get 100% sign up. This is a sewer district.
No, and there are some people who are going to say, you know what, I'm living in my house, I don't plan to sell it, I'm going to die here, I'm not going to pay.
Right.
Let it come out of my house when I. And the thing, one of the things that bothers me a little bit that kind of has it, I brought it up with AECom, is if you have a lot of frontage on a road, and you're getting hit with an EDU of every 150 feet,
Potentially, yes.
potentially, you're looking at
Yes.
a pretty sizable increase.
All right, so what are we going to do with this? Are we, doesn't sound like we're going to fix it here, so we're going to try and meet on Thursday? Is that it?
Yeah, I'm trying to get a hold of Dennis tomorrow.
All right.
I can't do it Thursday.
Well, we couldn't anyways, I thought it was.
No, Thursday you have 24 hours. You have 48 hours notice.
Monday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. But if you two are satisfied with it,
Well, I don't like the bacteria stuff, and you got to take the school stuff out because it's factually incorrect. But those are my concerns. And Finch was only spelled with one F.
Well, let me ask you this question on phase 2. Instead of if approved, if necessary, if required. Because we really haven't gotten a letter from DEP. We were just told that they've been out on the site and it looks like there's no issues. Have we really officially received a letter from them that says there's not going to be an issue?
I don't know. I don't care about, but
I think we can make that point at the meeting that we don't, right now, it looks like we're not gonna need it.
I'm just saying, it's just,
We don't know.
it could be part of the presentation at.
On the other hand, the high school, I know the high school has issues, so that's potentially something we might have to face down the road.
What are we gonna do with South Hadley to improve this?
It was the Board of Selectmen, it was addressed with them and they just postponed the vote. I think they want to see what's happening on our side.
all right.
The indication was.
The indication was that they wouldn't have a problem. The town administrator over there says it appeared that a majority of them were for it, however, no vote was officially taken at this point in time.
I can't meet on Thursday, but anyways, you need me to know my concerns.
I can't meet Thursday either.
So
Friday I could.
I can't on Friday.
But do you want to leave it up to Chris to approve the?
Chris, you know my concerns. So I know.
Maren, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, we have no other choice. Really.
Have fun with that.
I just hope that the committee, someone from the committee is also part of this.
I mean, besides Chris.
Well, I'm going to see if I can get Dave DeRozier, maybe Pam's available.
Well, if you meet at night, Tom might be awesome.
That's what I'm saying, I just have to figure out, get it out to everybody. Of course, I got to plan if AD conference on Thursday.
I think that's more to worry about. They have a lot of
Well, yes, except the issues we have with the fire really aren't AECOM's issues, I think.
Well, yes, they are,
They're-
right?
the figures could stand some questioning with them, or do you think?
Well,
Well,
that's really more on the general issue of how should be complainants. But no matter what they say to try to convince us one way or the other, the average size house is the average size house, the 2015 taxes are the 2015 taxes, the tax increases, the tax increase, as long as you recognize that you can't force anybody to pay any money.
and that's not AECOM's.
So then you're all right with the figures?
No, I think the figures are correct.
Then
But
you gotta feel comfortable with the right figures, no matter which way we go, right, John? I mean, I feel funny if these are incorrect figures, but I consider, with our representation on the board, that the figures were vetted, I guess. So,
If you look at John's figures compared to the sheet's figures, it basically gets down to where it says 172,000. The 4101 and the 3565 both add up to the 7666. We all agree with that number. It's just how you're going to split it up, I think is the issue.
Which affects tax increase.
Which affects the tax increase, because they're saying the town is only going to borrow 44.1 million to be put on the tax base. 3.5 is going to be coming from betterments. But then John is saying if people don't pay the betterments, then really if everybody signed up and followed the 18,000, everybody did it, everybody would get into the payment scheme, then yes, it would probably only be the 2.21%. If everything fell into place. But if someone chooses not to pay, if someone chooses,
I mean, let me speak now just from the finance committee point of view. We, as you know, are required to speak on anything involving right. Required to speak what our recommendation of the town is. Required to speak as to why. Our concern is if there's a public brochure that goes out, if there are figures that we think are misleading on the brochure or incorrect, and we have to say that too. And we'd rather not be in a position of having to say that, well, look, the thing that sent out is wrong. Because, as I said, the Finance Committee is not opposed to the idea of sewer, we're opposed to financing. But incorrect figures are incorrect figures, and we'll give the reasons why we think that they're incorrect. But then not only is there the issue of should there be a sewer, and the issue of how the financing should go on the sewer, but the third issue that gets introduced of what are people telling you? And that third issue really shouldn't be an issue, but it could become an issue.
What do people tell you in terms of the finances?
What are they telling you about? From anybody. The Board of Health is going to have its own concerns about it. But the Finance Committee, our concern would be if figures are presented and we think that they're incomplete, at best, misleading at worst, then we have to speak to that.
Okay, so John, I still want to get a handle on what you're saying. So in the total project costs, all those figures, the one that you have the biggest issue with is the loan principal on betterments, correct?
Tax base and
What's that?
there's one above it too, on the tax base, the 4.1.
I thought the 4.1 was a given. No? I thought that was...
He's saying the only amount we should be paying in taxes is 1.1 to 34 EDUs, Mary, on his spreadsheet. And he's saying the betterments, he's saying taxation should really be 0. Betterments should be the 7.6 based on the 231 EDUs. Everybody should be paying $33,000 per EDU. But because we're going to be borrowing the money, if people don't pay that $33,000 in a timely manner, we're going to end up having to raise taxation.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's what we're saying from our point of view about the financing. But if you throw that out, okay, you throw that out and say that no, it should be financed exactly like AECOM is proposing.
The committee is proposing.
The committee is proposing so that the betterment principal is $18,900 for each EDU, including the towns. Then the objection is that the tax increase on a $207,000 property, there's a minor objection there in that $207,000 might be the median, it's not the average property. Everything we've always presented in town figures have been on the average size property because it's a figure that's on the website. You can go and you can look the thing up. But the thing is that to say that the tax increase is $84, I think is an incorrect statement. The tax increase is going to be $470. And it's not going to be because ultimately you expect every household to pay $470 increase per year in taxes. It's because you can't guarantee that they're going to get that money back until the end of 40 years. And even then, I mean, in the worst case, if nobody paid anything for 40 years, all right, then in 40 years, as septic systems fail and people have to hook up, or as houses fail, the town's going to take in a lot of money. Well, if the loan is already paid off, what are you going to do? Are you going to give money? Or are you going to save the money somehow? You're going to give back to the taxpayers the money that they should have gotten back to reduce their taxes all along for the last 40 years? And isn't that almost impossible because people have moved and died and everything else? It's an equity nightmare. And there are ways around it. You know, people have to give their thought about it. But it's just another one of those things which has never been discussed. Never been discussed. There's like the overall cost to the taxpayers is an afterthought. Of course they pay. Well, we got to ask questions. And we're going to certainly have to say that if there's a public hearing, these are the questions which we would like to see answered. Some of the questions we'd like to see answered, depending upon the answers of additional questions. There's been no public hearings.
Can you get me your list of questions so I can forward them to the account so I can be prepared to answer your questions?
Yeah, well, they'll probably be included in whatever we hand out on Monday night.
Well, I was just saying if we can get a meeting together for Thursday so they can come prepared.
Well, we were going to, Finance Committee was going to discuss it on Wednesday.
You'll have the questions by Thursday, or you'll?
Finance Committee was going to talk about it. We had talked in general terms. We were going to talk because this thing came up. First, we're going to be in handouts.
Well, if-
Are you gonna put a handout even if this brochure is not ready for Monday night?
Well, we've got to find a way to get questions out for people to go to listen to the town meeting. So we haven't discussed that yet. We haven't actually discussed that yet because I just found that out.
I don't think we should be putting out information. I don't know if this is the right word, but criticizing the project or questioning the project before the project's actually been stated. Usually state the affirmative case, then a negative case. So it would be either both or neither, I would say.
I think the original discussion, I believe, was that since it wasn't going to be a vote, there didn't be a discussion in the materials. But then the thinking was that there are going to be taxpayers who come to this meeting and are going to think that there's going to be a vote. And so those taxpayers probably deserve to be handout materials for the right issue.
Yeah, I definitely think we should get it down from the committee before. I had hoped that it would go this week, but
Does that make sense, Mark? Because people are coming to this meeting with the intention of voting,
Yeah.
they're gonna want to see materials on the table. We're taking it off the table to vote, though.
Oh yeah, no. What I'm saying is I don't think we should put finance committee material
Without-
out if we don't have this out.
Finance committee can't be allowed.
You can prepare your stuff and then it's.
Still, but I mean, it doesn't really make sense to put out the critique of something before people see. I mean, just from a debate point of view, from what they do in a court point of view, you present the affirmative case first, then you go to the negative. You don't.
Yeah, no, I said we weren't intending to put something out until we heard that there's going to be a brochure.
So if there's a brochure, then I would say do both. But if they don't have,
If they don't put something out, are you gonna hold your handout until the public
Well,
hearing?
is something going to go out in the mail before Monday?
I don't see how it
I
can-
doubt it.
From what I'm hearing, I don't see how it can be. I mean, I think the committee thinks that was their draft. I mean, that was their final product because they've had a draft prior to this, and this was their final product. So I think they were waiting for us tonight to give it our blessing and move on and send it out.
Well, if you tell us that there is not going to be any brochure mailed out before the Monday meeting, then I think the finance committee will discuss that and decide not to work on a handout for that meeting. Now, that still leaves what kind of things should be addressed at the informational meeting. Well, we'll just show up at the informational meeting and hand out
But I
stuff.
prefer the meeting still to go on that we're talking about here. Any meetings that can help clarify points of view on either side
Oh, there's got to be a different, yeah.
is very helpful, would be very helpful. And I thought I heard you say earlier in the meeting, John, that you had asked AECom for figures and they didn't give it to you. So, I mean, that's a start right there. What kinds of things do you want from them? Give that to Chris.
Yeah, they've had that question for it. That was his thing.
And so what is that question, John? What,
How did you develop the figures that were in the information that they showed on the screens at the select board meeting, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
2 or 3.
2 or 3 weeks ago?
So you can't answer that, Chris, right? As a committee member?
No. No, because like I said, when I got their spreadsheets from them, they have this arbitrary number. that they
At some
assign.
point, somebody makes an assumption, and you don't know what the assumption is or what it's based on.
Right.
So my understanding is we're going to try and correct some of these, or at least note some of these discrepancies, or call it what you want. Is there a possibility that the committee could compact this a little bit and maybe leave a column for the finance committee to put some comments in on the brochure? I mean, our goal is to educate the people, whether we're in favor of it or not. I mean, information's information. So. Is that possible? And that way you could at least get your information out at the same time and people would see everything right in front of them. Because you can't mail stuff, you said.
Yeah, no, because what we're doing is, when we make a recommendation, we're taking a position, recommending that people go to something.
Right.
When an informational brochure goes out, it's theoretically supposed to be neutral, just a presentation of facts and stuff like that. And when the finance committee sends stuff out, when we have facts in there, but the reason is because we're pretty much stating a position, not on everything. Some of the stuff about the annual report is recommendations for folks, but for something like this, we're asking questions that we think haven't been answered. So we're basically saying that the information that you received is incomplete. Here's more that you should find out. And we're also making a recommendation for what we would support financially from an overall financing of the project. And but those are taking positions, and we can't use taxpayer money to do this. We know that. So we can't. So we really couldn't put any of the finance committee thinking in there. But what we could say is that if there's a figure in there and we object to the figure, that it's incorrect because it might be misleading, then we would either have to suggest that it come out of there, in which case then we're going to wind up saying these figures aren't there, or if it's in there, then we have to say we don't think those figures are correct. Here's why.
What would be being asked for it that just says the finance committee does not approve these figures?
Or does not agree with the figures, or has concerns over the figures. Or,
What could be an
that's
asterisk?
informational. That's not.
Or all you need is an asterisk for saying that the finance committee is not in favor of financing in the proposed costs.
Well, the amount that's
The way that the proposed costs are presented.
the municipal loan principal on tax base is under this proposal. The loan principal on betterments is under this proposal. The betterment principal for EDU is under this proposal. The annual payment for EDU is under this proposal. Tax increase on $270,000 property. That figure, I think, is absolutely misleading.
So if that was addressed somehow with an asterisk or whatever, would it be safe to say that we could put something down here saying the finance committee supports the sewer project, however, has concern about the funding method?
I would leave the funding stuff out.
Well, I think it's important because that's what this whole issue is going to be. And he stands up town meeting and says tax rate is going to be 4%, not 2%. That's a huge issue.
Yeah, I just,
But why can't you send out a brochure that just gives information on the project, and until you can iron out these financial problems, you can take care of that at the public hearing?
yeah, I
But you can
mean,
get a brochure out.
Well,
that
I
talks
think the
about
people
it.
their question, if everybody asks right away, is what's it going to cost me? And without that answer, I think you're just.
Also, this is not a technicality, but the finance committee isn't being asked about the sewer. The finance committee is being asked about the warrant article. And the warrant article is sewer financed like this. And we're opposed to that. We're recommending against that.
Well, it is a technicality, but it would sure help, John, if you,
Well, I think in the material that we put out,
yeah.
people are going to say that the finance committee is not the responsibility. We have real reservations about the finance. So, and the brochure really shouldn't be a mini debate, which it can turn into. Because it's not a joint, it's the other committee's brochure. It's not finance committee's brochure. So it'd be awkward to say, the finance committee, you ought to address this tiny little piece, and you can't say much, but you can say that you have questions about it. That's
But realistically, it's the select board's brochure.
a select board brochure, then
And I don't know, personally, I think if there's two valid arguments that people should be aware of it. I mean, I don't think we should necessarily just be sending out one side of the argument.
We shouldn't even be arguing, actually. We
It
should
should
be
be
providing information.
If there's controversy or whatever about how it's funded, I think it's important, it's gotta be discussed, or else the whole project's not gonna be. It's gonna be jeopardized.
Do we have enough to go on for now? Because we've been arguing, just discussing this for.
So
over an hour.
we're not gonna have this for Monday, is that correct?
there, if it's the select board's brochure, you should be able to decide whether it's going to be either available or mailed out.
But we have to see it, we can't decide on something we haven't seen yet, and we're having difficulty getting it.
And if you say that it's not going to be available to the public before Monday, either through mail or through handout, then I think the finance committee would agree. There's no point in us putting it on our newspaper before people see what it is that being talked about. I mean, the telephone calls I've got from people who own some of these EDUs have no idea what's going on. Some people don't even know whether they're. I was getting called with questions about whether, am I on this line? Am I part of this? And I said, I don't know. People don't know if they have an EDU. If they don't, how to get one. Where is it going to go?
Realistically though, John, and I'm not making excuses here, but realistically, those questions are going to be up until the day of and the day after any kind of election. That's the nature of the beast.
Well, people may have.
We're going to have this public hearing, and I hope I'm wrong. And I think the planning board did a great job at their zoning meetings of getting people out. But
People will still have questions, right? So, right, but it shouldn't be because
right.
the answers were not previously made
Exactly.
available.
Yep, you're right. But there are going to be those people that are going to continue to have those questions.
We're ready to move on.
What time do you normally meet?
Our meeting on Tuesday is at 6 p.m. and our meeting on Wednesday is at 7 p.m.
So when would you propose for Thursday?
Thursday, regular meeting at 6:30.
So we are in agreement, this is not gonna be ready for Monday?
Unless my concerns are addressed, I don't support making it ready for Monday.
Well, I suppose if Thursday they met and talked about the concerns that have been brought forward, we can't meet on Friday, I guess. I can't meet on Friday, but you and Mark could.
Those are my concerns for all.
I don't mind meeting.
I don't mind meeting on Friday either. That's a 2-minute meeting.
I could meet on Friday morning before school.
I can't meet Friday morning until
No.
after like 10:30.
I mean, I may be able to make like a noon time, but I have Relay for Life this weekend, so I'm tied up
So then you would have a handout.
to have a hand.
They will know Thursday night if they have a handout, let's put it that way.
Not until we approve it.
Well,
And
they'll
then
have
Friday,
a good
I'll
idea to be able to tell you whether to prepare. One of us is, Mary's not gonna be here, or.
Right. So I would say don't worry about Monday night. We're not gonna have a vote on it, we're not gonna discuss it. Then why rush in to get something done that isn't required, and then we'll have time to look at it, talk about it Monday night even at the town meeting, and then mail it out.
But does that mean they still don't meet on Thursday?
No, I think they have to meet.
Yeah,
But
they're
we don't.
still gonna meet.
Right. I think we gotta get that, they gotta get that hammered out, it's not us as much. It's my opinion.
So you're gonna check on either Wednesday or Thursday's availability, or concentrate on Thursday?
What day are you looking for?
You know, it's
Right now, I've got Thursday at 6:30 written down.
Okay.
Right now, I got Thursday.
Then you're gonna try other committee members, right, Chris?
I'm going to email the Board of Health, the Finance Committee, the Sewer Committee, and AECom. So we can all get together, or a group can get together for Thursday at 6:30 at the library. Whole library.
So who's not gonna offer the motion?
Not me.
Chris, as a disinterested party, you wanna do it?
South Hadley Fire District 2 letter?
Do you want to go through
Yeah,
the
that's what you want.
All good.
Who's going to present what articles?
Yes.
How many
Is
articles
that why you're
we
sitting
doing?
here for 7
We're
minutes?
going up through
I think it.
number
Is it on the back of that?
12.
As I told Chris earlier, right now, unfortunately, I have found out I have a conflict Monday night, but I'm trying to get that changed. I anticipate it should be able to be changed, but just in case it can't be changed, I want to be aware that I may not be there.
All right. I'll just do
I
yours
do
or
the
something.
first 6, you do the next 6.
Okay, Mary, what's your
And
6?
then
If I'm there, I can grab
he
it.
can go in between or something, that they're
Well,
kind of
Article
benign.
11 and 12 are going to be presented by Althea.
Which ones?
11 and 12.
So,
Normally, Article 6 is presented by Kevin Brooks, but he's on baby watch right now. So,
Push down, David.
yeah. so. He's not sure if they'll be around, but like you said, they're on.
I'll do 6 for you. I'll use.
Would be 6 if he's not here?
I'll do 6 through 10, and Kevin can do, Mary can do 1 through 5, I'll do 6 through 10. Kevin can, certainly do his own article if he'd like to.
If I'm here, I can grab a couple.
Okay, whatever, fine. All right, and we don't have to do the rest of
No
it.
questions on any of the articles?
No, they're all really business, right?
These are all just general business.
they could recur every year, right?
Yeah,
Right.
housekeeping articles.
The only new one basically is Article 11, and that was the Personnel Board creating a new position called a skilled maintenance worker. So,
And we'll do the state of the town on June 11th,
On
or
15th.
June 15th, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Fire District 2?
Do you want to read that, or want me to read that? Or?
Not really.
I meant theirs.
I don't know, we just finished in
I would say you
8
should
minutes.
summarize it.
Where is it? Oh, yeah. The board has received correspondence from Prudential Committee, which governs Fire District 2. Basically, we had sent them a letter on January 29th relative to fire coverage in the area of District 2, which is actually within the borders of the town of Granby. And to make a relatively long letter short. They indicated they expressed their disappointment that we couldn't have reached an agreement, and we've been back and forth many times, and I think we also feel that it's too bad we couldn't reach an agreement. But Mr. Bale has drafted a response to them.
Yep.
Do you want to read it or
Not really.
summarize it?
Yeah, I'll mention that I sent it out to everybody last night, and Russ and Chief Anderson and I have been in contact over the course of the weekend, probably every day. So he's read through everything, and I've done what I could with his comments. I'm just going to skip to the bottom. Granby Select Board has two concerns: the safety of our residents and the liability of the town. We cannot compromise on either of these concerns. To adequately address these concerns, we must insist on a dual dispatch of Granby's fire service. This process has worked for 75 years. It has worked so well, in fact, that the district noted in its 2009 ambulance lines application that our fire departments would be simultaneously dispatched and respond jointly. Our attorney has advised us that Granby will incur a significant liability if we do not send our fire service to fires within the boundaries of our town. Because of the ambiguities in areas where phone calls come in, we do not always know whether a fire is in or out of the district. Public safety depends on the dual dispatch of our fire departments. Until the district recognizes that there are public safety and liability issues regarding the fire response, we see no reason to reopen negotiations. So, and that's essentially it. We can't go against the advice of our attorneys. We can't sacrifice public safety, and those are things that have to be met for us to reopen negotiations. Otherwise, things will just continue as they have for the last 75 years or so.
I mean,
Did you find some errors?
No, I just read this tonight, and personally, I would just respond by the last paragraph. That's all I think that's necessary. And our different views in the past are quite frankly irrelevant, and I don't think we have to set up revisit ugly feelings anymore. I don't think we'll do that, except if we just use the last.
Yeah, I thought about that, and I would rather decided to give them our point of view because it's not been given, and it's not something I felt like would be broadcast. It's certainly not something we would send to all the residents of Fire District 2, but I think that they really need to understand that we also have a point of view on matters, and we're not interested in that point of view, but they keep bringing up issues that have been put to bed, so I felt that it would be important to basically let them know that we also have a point of view. And as I said in the first paragraph, we set forth our perspective here solely for the sake of the Prudential Committee, whom we will hope will understand that at the very least there is more than one side to this ongoing saga. So,
Mark, I saw tonight that letter to you on the 23rd is posted on the website. So while they might not be mailing it, they are making all their sites public, which continually looks like we're the ones with the shortcomings.
I personally think that the tone of the letter sets up not a good feeling.
What do?
I'm fine with it. The tone of their letter didn't leave a good feeling with me either. So I think we've tried to do everything we could. All we want to do is leave things the way they were for 75 years. I don't see. They don't seem to get the fact that we have a liability issue that if there's a fire in the town of Granby, our fire department's gonna respond to it. It's that simple, and it's worked for 75 years, and realistically, if there's a house fire, that both units are gonna get called anyways. The bottom line is, again, we have liability issues with the police public safety dispatch. If a call were to come in and they not dispatch our fire department, then there's liability there. So I don't understand why they don't get it, but whether it just stems back to their ill feelings about being told by OEMS not to automatically respond to calls for ambulance or not, I don't know what it is. But,
I think though, we say that in that last paragraph. I think Mark says that in the last paragraph.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Okay. All's in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
I am.
Okay. I did notice in the paragraph.
There are a couple of extra words in there.
Yeah, I noticed on the bottom paragraph, second page, 2, next to fire responses.
So you edit that.
I don't know. Is there anything else there that's...
There was a couple in here that I saw, but
And I also think we should copy our representatives as they did, to keep them aware of the fact that we responded.
All right. All right. Anything else we got?
one other thing is I had received a letter from Ed Ryan regarding donation of Aldrich Hall. I just wanted to let the board know what his response was, to see how they want to proceed at some point in the future. And even though this is dated April 27th, there were some typos in it that I talked to Ed, and I just picked up the revised one this morning, or this afternoon, actually.
I mean, I suggest that we send them a letter asking them to issue the certificate of appropriateness as to comply with the Massachusetts general laws, or we'll take them to court, as that's the only remedy for doing that. And we can also send them this stuff now that we've had a chance to look at it, send it to them now.
I think we should definitely send him the letter.
This letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So we send them this. We can have request that.
Request the permanent hardship.
Have Chris draft a letter telling them that that they failed to take action within 60 days, and as a matter of Massachusetts general law, they need to issue the certificate of appropriateness or wind up in court. I'll make a motion on that.
I'll make a motion. I don't know that we need to
I don't want to mention court.
mention
I would
court.
just
I
say,
think
Okay.
make the request.
as town council's opinion, please.
Or attached town council.
Motion.
Well, so moved.
Second. All's in favor? Aye. All right. Do you have anything else
Chief
besides
Wishart?
Chief Wishart?
That's executive session?
I got a few things. We have requested that the planning board, park committee, and conservation appoint a land acquisition committee member. I know Will Lewis was nominated by Con's comment. We heard from.
I haven't heard from planning. Have you, Kathy? No, Kathy hasn't been notified yet.
Bless you.
Okay. Now, because we have some requests pending about land, so.
I'll pay tomorrow.
Yeah, and maybe Billy, if he's around. I know Brian, I think, is down south. Billy might be in Florida too. I don't know.
No, Bill's back.
Is he back?
He's back.
You sure?
He was
He went-
back last week.
Yeah, I think he left to get his father.
Did he?
Yeah, he didn't go to the top.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll do both.
Just for the public's information, I don't know how publicized it's been, but the library did in fact get LEED certification, which means they'll be getting $100,000 back from the government for their LEED certification. So it's good news, right?
Sounds good. Mary, do you have anything else?
Just,
I got a few more things.
No. Well, this is a first.
Well, I wasn't here last week. So. We got a call today from Ed Chapdelaine. Anybody see that? Did you guys check your emails?
I saw
Sent
an email on it, yeah, I just need to contact
Would you
Patrick.
take care of
What was
that?
it?
They picked up his trash, left a bag. He called them. They said, "Yeah, we'll be by some time to pick it up." He wasn't very happy.
No, they picked everybody but his trash.
No, they picked up all his trash, but left one bag, according to what I read.
Oh, the way I understood it, he put his trash out, the whole street was picked up, but his wasn't.
Okay, maybe
That
I
was the way I
misread.
understood it.
I thought they left one bag of trash there.
No,
They said they'd be back, and that he wasn't very happy with the fact that
whenever, they come back whenever.
whatever, yeah. Next Friday, Chris and I are going to be attending the joint South Hadley Chamber of Commerce meeting. You got anything to mention? If you do, would you email it?
yeah, I saw that.
Okay. And we had a question came up. I'm not sure when, and I spoke to Chief Wishart about the park regulations and how enforceable they were in Dufresne's Park. We did a little research and talked to Brian, and under state law, the select board, our park commissioners, we have the power under the statutory authority to enact rules, which was done back in 1989, something like that. So those regulations that are in effect are actually in effect. However, in talking to Chief Wishart, some of them are, the fines may be a little out of whack or inconsistent with town bylaws. So my suggestion would be maybe to have Chief Wishart and the park department look at them and update them and bring them back to the board, and then perhaps to make it clear, have a bylaw at some point that refers to park regulations. I don't think we need that necessarily because the state statutes there. But
Yeah, I've spoken with a bunch of people at this point about the loose dogs and stuff. The consensus of a lot of people was they were not worried about the leashed dogs so much as it was people couldn't control their dogs, or people who came, sat in their truck, and let the dog run wild.
I think the regulation says leash, doesn't it? Chief?
The regulation says that, but in those situations, with the bylaw or not, the dog breaks through the leash. It doesn't matter whether you have the leash long or not. If the person can't control their dog, and like you said, there's a lot of things in the regulations that they refer back to something being certain sections of it being a bylaw. It's not a bylaw, and then there's some of it's referred to as regulations, but there's no mention of who, what, how, or why those would be enforced. And so I think it just makes a lot of sense to go over them now, maybe change some of the wording, some of the fines that you said are misleading, and maybe either have the board come back and approve them in an ideal world, to have a bylaw that, like you said, states that either they're enforceable in this manner or make them a bylaw and make the enforceability through the same way we would
dog
enforce a
criminal bylaw.
criminal bylaw.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who would like to participate in that discussion. And signage, we could use better signage.
Yeah.
I know some of the people who frequent the park, like my friend Ron DeHaska, has actually organized people to pick up dog remnants.
Feces.
Yeah. Especially because the women's club had a Easter egg hunt. That was not something that they needed to find in their Easter egg hunt. So they had gone early in the morning and done that, and by the time the kids got there were problems again. So that's one of the bigger problems that the committee will need to handle.
So major issues surrounding dogs? Is that what?
That's what I think Kent Carter brought it up, but it's, there's,
There's two things that come up all the time. One is the dog. If you're talking about the parks oversight committee, dogs going to the bathroom and people not taking care of it.
Yeah.
Where in any other park, you'd have to pick it up and dispose of it. They just leave it there, which is
Yeah.
obviously a convenience. The other thing is, I don't really quite know all the details, but someone was on a horse, a dog was loose, harassed the horse, and then there were some, somebody fell off the horse went away. And most of the people who go there have control of their dogs and stuff, but then you get these people who come and they don't know if they have control of their dog or not until it's too late. So, but I mean, I would go and do education on the weekends a couple of times just to talk to people and let them know what's going on. Just to
well, I think as you said, signage is the key too.
Signage is
There's
key.
Nothing, I mean, the horses are not supposed to be on the pavilion side of the pond, if I'm not mistaken by the regulations.
yeah, people go to that.
There's no sign there.
They go to that dog park, and then there are horses on that side.
Yeah, the
They're
horse
in and out.
is. Dogs are loose. I was down there last week with my dog, and half a dozen dogs running loose.
Yeah.
With the people there, but still they didn't.
I've seen like groups of, I go every Saturday and Sunday, and I've seen groups of people with, they're socializing, but the dogs are all playing in one area, it's all under control. Where I have a dog who's not friendly, and I have to keep him on a leash to make
Same
sure
with mine.
nobody gets hurt. So.
When I was walking the dog, another dog came up, very friendly, wanted to play. Well, my dog doesn't play very well, and unfortunately, the dog took off before he got hurt. But
Yeah, my dog.
my dog hurt somebody. I feel bad, number one, but it wouldn't be their fault. I mean, the people's.
Yeah, I
dog
mean,
was
you're the
loose.
one who's trying to control your dog while people aren't controlling theirs. So that's a situation I run into. I'll yell out when I'm on the trail out in the woods, "My dog's not friendly," and they'll be like, "Mine is." Which not. Saying not friendly is better than saying my dog will rip yours apart. I don't want to pay a vet
So
bill.
while you're on trail, is the dog supposed to be on the leash? Is that-
There's no provision in the town that says the dog should not be under your control. I believe the town bylaw says control.
Under control, right?
The Dufresne's regulation is leashed.
Yes.
So,
Should be leashed
Yes.
at Dufresne.
and that's
But
In
you
the-
get up into the woods,
Right,
and there's a different set of rules
So-
somehow.
but
If you try to read through those and make sense of them, they are very,
Very
difficult.
complicated.
They're difficult, and they're difficult for someone who knows the area. And they're, while there was obviously some time given to write them, they need to be clarified because they're not easy to follow. They refer to things that aren't
The power
Actual.
lines, everything north or south of the power lines, you can do this, and it's
Yeah.
just.
It refers to even ATVs getting away from the dog park. Just to give you an example, it refers to them being allowed on certain maintained areas that don't exist. So there's, they need to be gone through again.
Absolutely.
And even things like open fires, the fire chief should be allowing or not allowing fires. He's the one that has
it's customary, just for your information. Like, I have one dog that I keep on a leash because he could hurt somebody, and I have one who couldn't hurt anybody if he tried. So the little one, he goes off leash, and he's not a problem. Doesn't go to other dogs. So when I go up in the woods, I'm accustomed to seeing people without their dogs on leashes, and occasionally, like, people on horses come by, so maybe we'll, take the dog with the leash, just walk off the trail so people can get by without a problem. But that's a situation where I have one dog I can't control, and so I keep him on a leash, and then I have one who I can't control, and he's not on a leash.
But would these kind of regulations be more uniform, that a leash or no leash, or?
I think they should be more uniform. I think, although the reality of it is we are still going to be called to situations where people don't abide by them. And that, we don't have a park monitor. Certainly with comprehensive, enforceable rules, we can do something about it when we see it happen. Prior to somebody getting hurt or an incident happening where we called after the fact. But the problem will still remain is that we don't have somebody to stay there. We certainly don't have somebody to be on the trails. So we're going to run into situations like this after the fact. And they'll be handled exactly the same way. Either the dog officer or the police officer will look into it. And, so those types of situations I don't foresee changing. Although the education part of it, having it, uniform so we can enforce it and then also post it would be helpful.
Now, does the committee have, the recreation committee have the money to do post signage?
Oh, they have money.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really crazy to do signage without doing this.
You gotta do the regulations first, right? The other aspect of that is probably the most critical one is right now, I'm down there, I'm in violation. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have to take me to criminal court.
And that's part of the issue, and that's why
Right.
things like bylaws are set up to go through the
For non-criminal disposition. So the park regulations should be handled the same way as the bylaws.
And I will say that the people who use the dog park will do a certain amount of self-policing before they call the police.
And while they're doing it, they probably should look at regulations for the Partika property. Right now, there's, I don't think any restrictions if you want to go out there and camp. You can camp. There's fires. There's no regulations.
Yeah, we've got
except for not having a motor on the pond.
And also the current do-frames or park regulations actually refer to the school's properties as well.
Right.
I'm not sure.
And the
if that's-
cemetery.
Yes. So there's more to it than just the do-frame park piece of it. They refer to things at the schools too. So that'll have to be readjusted as well.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Mayor?
Lou, so at the chamber, would bringing up the sewer thing be not?
Well, I think they were looking at what issues are we looking at. I don't think we're
Yeah.
going to get into a big whole
Yeah.
dissertation on it, except for the fact that it's under consideration and it's an issue. I mean, other
But
than
you
that,
mentioned that.
in the school, yeah, the sewer in the school,
Those are the two
the
things.
two main
that I-
things.
Yeah.
Unless there's something else that you have.
Can we have a recap of the brush leaf collection day?
I don't know. I'll have to get that from David. I have no clue what happened.
So you have it,
No, I haven't had a chance to talk to David. He's been busy trying to get Amber Street and Pleasant Street milled and paved, and we really haven't had a chance to really sit down together and talk. Maybe I can get it Wednesday morning at my staff meeting.
Well, the chief's here, just notation too, nice job on those, your people did a nice job on those two different cases involving house breaks and thefts and everything.
Thank you. It worked out very well. We're happy to be able to close some of the ones that you don't normally do. So it worked out really well.
Anything else? All right.
One other thing. Jason Richards stopped by today, the second annual chicken barbecue for the Veterans Memorial is going to be on June 14th.
To charter it weekend?
Yep. It's going to be at June 14th at the Immaculate Heart of Mary in the pavilion.
If that's good timing or bad timing, I don't know.
It was already booked the week before.
And
It's a good
the
day, it's Flag Day.
salt cookout is 16th,
No.
17th?
13.
I think it's it's after. No.
Maybe it's the 15th, then it's like, it's on a, I know I can't
Tuesday.
go because it's way too early for me. 16th then.
We did the Tuesday.
That would be the 16th.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
Flag Day is June 14th, so if they would have a Veterans Memorial on there.
Just to, we got a invitation today, I don't know if you saw it or not, from Jessica Skato, volunteer dinner.
I couldn't open it because I don't have a publisher. What day is it?
It's June 11th, and I am teaching that night, I cannot be here. It's Thursday.
And that's at 5?
Didn't pay attention to it, I can let you know though.
Yeah, we were at that last time.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Executive
Oh, that's right.
You're going to adjourn according to law 30A dash.
We're not adjourning, we're going into executive session.
That's what I mean. 30A-21-2 to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. We will reconvene only to adjourn the meeting.
Roll call.
Okay.
Mary, aye.
Good job.
Bail, aye.